One of the most powerful things that code enables us to do is save and manage data. So, data is the information that powers our digital experiences here, and it's really the lifeblood of everything that's happening in web development. So, let's kind of take a look at our quick menu example here and see this in action. So, coming to the landing page here, this is all very static. And this is somebody goes to the browser, they go to quickmenu.com, this is what they see first. And what is it? It's just a landing page, a splash page. There's nothing really happening here. It's not really valuable. Like from a user perspective, this is cool. Like if I'm a restaurateur, I'm seeing this, I'm saying, okay, this is a nice marketing site, but there's nothing valuable here for me until I sign up, provide some data to the experience, which is my menu, and now all of a sudden it becomes a much more valuable experience. And this is going to be the case over and over and over again. Same thing with Airbnb. It's not really a valuable experience until people put their information into the system, and then I can look at all the listings that people have and book a reservation for my stay. Same thing with Uber. It's not useful until people say, I have my car and I'm available and I can be at your location in 3 minutes. All of these experiences are basically ways for us to see and interact with data. So let's keep going here. We've got our landing page. What's the first thing I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to create my account. I'm going to put data into the system in the form of my name, my email, and my password. I'm also behind the scenes, or maybe less explicitly, giving my consent to the terms of service and the privacy policy as well. That's a piece of data that we're going to need to capture in this experience. So already we're just at the mock-up phase here. We're only looking at designs, but there are huge data implications here. You've probably run into this at some point. We're collecting name right here, but the marketing department would really like everybody's first name. So that way they can personalize email reach out a little bit more. Well, that would change our design. We now would need two fields. We need a first name and a last name. These data requirements change how we design the experience, and they change how we implement the experience as well. So when we're coding, we would have to make sure that we have a way to capture first name, last name. So on the front end, we would need to make sure that we actually code inputs for both of that. And then on the back end, we need to make sure that we store that data appropriately and then manage it where we need it. So there's a lot of moving pieces here that come into play as soon as we start talking about data. So this is getting stored. We can log in as well. This is interesting as well. We've already created an account. Now we're using an email and a password to look up the user and determine if this is the actual user coming back. So we check their passwords. We say, do these passwords match? We have to do a data check there basically to say this is the right person, and then we can give them access and authenticate them into the experience. Now we see this empty screen. We have no data in the system. That's what empty scenes are really useful for, right? To make sure that we are telling the user, hey, there's nothing here yet because you haven't done anything. So they go through the process, they create a menu. Now it becomes much more useful. We're showing them that they have created menus. They have a lunch menu, that's their label. And what's the status? This is draft, so maybe it's not visible yet. It's not published. This one is. And then how many items are associated with each menu. So we're giving them some sort of contextual information, but it's based on their input. If they come over here to the form, again, we're capturing this information and saving it in our database on the back end. So that way we can retrieve that information whenever we need it. So over here, somebody's putting in a title, and then we're displaying it over here. They're saying the status, maybe it's draft, and then they're saying it's draft over here, or it's published. They have to change that. So the front end responsible for capturing this information from our user, and then they send it over to the back end where we store it. And we store data in a database, and that's where all of this data lives. It lives in databases, and there are many different types of databases. Most of them are going to be what we call a relational database, something like MySQL or Postgres. But you can also have non-relational databases, and this is probably getting too into the weeds, but something like MongoDB or something like that. But anyway, many different ways to store the data, but that's what's happening. And then finally, we can then retrieve that information and say, this is our menu based on how it was populated in that form. So the data needs, the data considerations really change how and what we're doing from the design side all the way through to the execution and implementation on the coding side.